This tutorial covers 2D tracking with TEMA Lite. To start tracking, you first go to the New View on the File menu or the New View icon and pick an image file. The only files that will show here are the ones that can be read by TEMA. This is a listing of the types of files available. Check the most current listing with your TEMA agent. TEMA will ask you to confirm the file name and also the frame rate at which the imaging was done. For an AVI and others where the frame rate is not in the header, you will have to adjust this. Now pick a point and add it to the head, and then right-click on that point to set the point up. First we will give it a name, and next we will ask it to accept lost points while tracking, because there is a flash in the image and we want it to coast through this without being distracted. It will ignore losing the point for up to 3 frames. For tracking such as this, TEMA Lite offers you either the quadrant tracker or the correlation tracker. The tracking accuracy is respectively about 1/10 of a pixel and 1 pixel. So if there is a way to use the quadrant or bow tie tracking, you should do so. Whereas the correlation tracker finds the image within the purple tracking circle, it does not lock on and you can still move it manually. The quadrant target, however, locks onto what it thinks is the center of the quadrant. If you need to move it, you need to press the Alt key to override this lock. You also need the Alt override if either the correlation or quadrant tracker gets locked on the very edge of the image and you need to move it. We will set the purple search area within the outer diameter of the quadrant target placed on the head. Then we will also set the search area. The bigger box is the search area for the first and second frame. If frame-to-frame prediction is used, we can set the smaller box for use in subsequent frames, making sure we check the reduce after second frame box. Frame-to-frame prediction tells the tracker where to expect the target in the next frame based on the motion in the previous frames. Only use this for fairly predictable motion. Making the search area smaller not only saves time, it prevents the tracker from seeing other parts of the image where there may be other similar targets it could jump to. Now we have added another point that we can use for scaling. It has to be in the same plane as the first one, and we will call this the scaling point. We do not need to be careful with the setting because we will only track it manually in 1 frame. Now we can set up the scaling system, a single parallel system. In other words, all the motion we are measuring will be in the one plane. We set the time at which we track the scaling point by clicking the clock. We need to define the 2 points which we know the distance between, in this case 6 inches. We can now say OK and save our scaling. Alternatively, we could have checked the manual scaling button and set up scaling in terms of inches per pixel. For this calculation, we need to divide the horizontal field of view by the horizontal pixel resolution. The blue navigation buttons are video controls. No tracking is done. The 4 with targets on are the tracking buttons, 2 forward and 2 backward. The inner ones track only 1 frame and only need to be used if automatic tracking is poor due to poor images. This image sequence goes beyond the point where we can track, so go to the last frame that you want to track. Go to the Edit Time Properties and click on the clock to set the end time for the sequence. This will not edit the image, it will only restrict the visible portion. We could have scaled dynamically in each image if the motion had not been in one plane, but that would have involved tracking the scaling point in each image. As we do not plan to do that, we will turn that point off and only track the head. Now we will add a diagram in which we will put the head onto our list of tracked points, and we will plot the position. We could have selected velocity or acceleration, and we will plot the motion in the x direction, the horizontal direction. Now we will set up a timetable or spreadsheet, and again we will put the head on and use the position. We will plot both x, y and the absolute values, that is all the values. Now we say OK to save the settings. Now we can press the track button, and as we track, the graph and spreadsheet will be generated, and now we have completed our first simple scale test. While tracking, you should be careful with the setting for each point. On means the point is on. Off means there is no tracking and no data will be recorded. In the off position, previously tracked data will not be overwritten. The Z or sleep mode records a sleep position and will override previously tracked data. If the tracking is lost, as noted on the bottom left of the screen, you can manually place the point, but note that after manually placing it, later automatic tracking will not overwrite this manual placement.